Guys, welcome to the third video. In this one I'm wanting to talk about air and water. So that's the air intake, the intercooler, the radiator itself and how we're cooling that, and the heating system. So as you can see here is our air intake for the engine. It's all stock up to this point here, and then we've got a 180 or a U-bend in silicon. I'm not sure what that's classed as. We had to put a spacer in there to make it a little larger, and it did clamp down because I believe the intake pipe for the engine is about 75 and this is about 100, so it's quite a bit of clamping on there, but it is possible. And then that comes around to what is the stock housing and the MAF sensor. So this originally was on the air box for them, or the Subaru filter box. If we could have used that, we would have done it, where we can have kept things relatively stock, because that's how it's designed to work. But the stock box is quite chunky, and finding somewhere for that to live without taking a lot of useful space up was quite tricky. So what we did is we invested in a K&N filter, and that came with a housing kit and a cone and all that gubbins. And to link the two together, we created a mounting plate. So the MAF housing bolts to the plate, and then the plate then bolts to the K&N housing, so it's all in one piece. And that way, hopefully these stock MAF sensors work as it should do. I ran it like that for a while, so it was actually breathing warm air that was inside the engine bay, because there's no standoffs on the engine, so it's purely airflow in the engine bay from under the engine. I didn't notice any performance issues or problems. It didn't seem to cause any problems at all, but I wanted to keep it running, breathing fresh air. So to do that, we continued from the K&N housing, and then we have another, it's a 45 or a 135, I'm not sure what that's classed as. Goes to a second 135, so it takes it around the back of the hinge, and then in the corners a 90, which shoots it forwards. And I'll go into the car and show you where that goes in a second. It is very tight in the engine bay, but it's not rubbing that I know of. There's no issues there, and I'll link to all the parts I've got online, if I can find the links, in the description below, if you want to create something similar. Let's have a look inside the car. Okay, so we're just under the back window, and as you can see there is the back of the pipes I've just showed you. They're all linked together using 100mm aluminium pipe, which is quite handy stuff. It cuts really easy to work with, and it's good for linking the different sections together because it's a nice fit for the silicon. And then that goes through to the white pipe here, which is actually a bit of a boiler pipe, a flue pipe from an old boiler, but it does work well. And then that connects to this large bad boy pipe here. Now this is a fresh air feed for both the intercooler and the intake for the engine, and that goes down underneath the car, and I shall show you the feed for that later. Okay, so that brings us on to the intercooler. Now on a stock Subaru, the intercooler is mounted as it is on our engine. However, the air is forced through the bonnet, through a scoop, and down through the intercooler. It also has a water injection system, so when you put your foot down on full throttle, it injects water on top of the intercooler to give you a bit of additional coolant on there. To get the air to go down through the intercooler is a bit tricky without putting scoops in the car somewhere, or through the side window, which you've seen done before. So we went for plan B. My father had a lot to do with this one, so thank you, Dad. I can't pronounce Flembox, so it's the snot box. So father created the snot box, and what it does is it feeds the fresh air from the fresh air pipe, goes into the snot box, and then effectively the intercooler is working as it should do, but in reverse. So the air is forced up through the intercooler on ours, the opposite way around, and then the air should dissipate through the engine bay and hopefully into the car. To get around the water injection, I've not done this yet, but I've got a cheap washer kit off eBay or Amazon, I forget which, they're all the same. Some washer jets, I think they're off Doblo van. Do not ever buy a Doblo van. And the plan was to put a little micro switch on the accelerator pedal, and hopefully we can squirt water on there as and when. And I also toyed with the idea of putting a fan in line. I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not. I'm not actually got around to trying it. I think this fan's from a Boxster or 911, I'm not quite sure. It was donated it by a friend, thank you Craig. And it just happens to be about the right size for the fresh air feed. So as I'm toying with the idea of fitting that in line there, so we've got a permanent flow of air for the intercooler. Though whether that'll actually make things any better or not, I probably need to speak to some tuning guys first to see what they say. Okay, so that brings us on next to cooling and radiators. Now it seems quite a common conversion now to put a Golf GTI radiator or something of that type in the front on Subaru converted Bugs. It's not something I wanted to do because personally I don't like it when you have the radiator slots in the bonnet, in the Vlaams, and I think the more common, more subtle one these days is they create a scoop underneath there. They box out the spare wheel well, and then it goes through the hole in the back of it, through the radiator. Like I say, I wanted to keep the front of the car looking relatively standard, which it is, which I really like. Even better spare wheel in there. But the other issue was using the radiator from a GTI or something. So the GTI is rated at 200 horse or something like that. And obviously the Subaru engines out of the factory is at something along 300. And the concern was that there wouldn't be enough cooling in there to actually cool the amount of heat we might generate. And as we were doing this quite a while ago, before many other people had done it, there wasn't really many people to ask if the GTI radiators actually worked or not. So we opted to keep the box standard Subaru radiator, which due to its size you just cannot get in the front of a Beetle, so don't even look at it, it's huge. So you've probably noticed in previous videos the way we've done it is we've actually mounted it where the rear seat would normally have sat. So I'm upside down here, but the front, along the front edge here, that actually sits on the bar where your seat base front sits against, and then we weld across a bar across the car, which is this one here, a couple of brackets, and then the pins and tabs. So the radiator mounts, it's rubber mounted as it will be in the Subaru, yeah, as it should be basically. It's not quite horizontal, there's a slight incline there to help with getting any air out of the system. But in this format I've had no issues with overheating. It seems to work well. It bleeds alright because they've got a slight incline on it. So yeah, no major issues at all really. I've not seen anyone else do it, but it does seem to work. So that brings us on to the water pipes. So on mine I didn't actually reverse the water manifold. So it's something I may do in the future if needs be, but what I've got seems to be working quite well. So I basically use bits of standard piping to bring me around at 180 degrees. I actually put the tape on there because I thought it might rub the engine movement, but it doesn't need to rub in, so that can come off actually. It's ignore that. And then that goes through to copper piping. Now there are issues with using metal piping for your cooling system, because you can get galvanic corrosion. So because the heads on the Subaru engine are made of aluminium, if you're using metal pipes, you can create galvanic corrosion through the water. And obviously if you know anything about it, the further apart in the periodic table the metals are, the worse effectively it becomes. So the ideal solution is probably to use plastic. I did look into doing that, but the cost of it was quite high, and also there was issues with how do you fit things like, for example, the thermostat there for our radiators is in the hot water there. It's hard to see that there are bleeds in there as well at the front. See if I can see a bleed. No, not quite. So we fitted bleeds in line as well to help get any air out of the system. To be honest, we don't really need to use them. It bleeds quite well anyway. But I opted to use copper. So I'm using copper. using deionized water. So originally I used plain tap water before I realised you can create this issue. So deionized water only, and then 50% pink coolant. And say, I don't think it'll be causing any problems in there. Everything's mounted using D or P clips, and they're rubber mounted, so there's a little bit of flexibility and movement in it, but also it shouldn't be earthed to the car in any places either. So I don't think I'm going to have any issues with galvanic corrosion, but I guess time will tell. Big advantage again of using copper. I think this is 35 or 36mm copper. It's easy to work with, so you can put 90-degree bends on there quite easily, just soldering them on. So it's easy to work with, and all the parts and bends are easy to buy from any plumbing shop basically. So yeah, that's the solution I've gone for. I was told that it'd shake itself to death and fall apart, a bit like an earthquake in a house and causing leaks. But I say again, I've had no leaks so far in 2 years of running it. It still seemed to work quite well. So to provide air to our radiator and to our intercooler, we've effectively created scoops under the car. So the back sections of the floor pans have been removed. The scoops that are on there actually, again, are something temporary created to see how it worked, and they're still there because it's working well. I did plan to replace them with something a bit more chunky and steel at some point, but for now. So from behind the chair, you can see the floor pan is tubbed, and it goes up to the back of where the seat base used to sit. So it tubs up in the air, so it basically shoots up there. And then underneath the car itself, the floor pans are removed at this point. A new scoop's been created so the air can flow, and it goes up through the radiator and out. I'll post some photos to try and show you a bit more clearly how we've done that, but it is working quite well at the minute. Right, the heating system. As you can see here, it's hard to see. The heating pipe, this is the top one at least, comes out the back of the engine. On mine it's actually in a temporary loop which goes around the radiator, and then it goes straight back. So at the minute the two heating pipes don't actually go to anything, they just looped around and go back themselves. I've left them long, so I was toying with the idea of fitting a secondary radiator in case I run into any heating issues, but say the setup's working, so the chances are I'll just shorten these probably over winter and loop them back in themselves. It's really important you don't block off this pipe. You can't terminate the pipe basically and blank it off, because it does form part of the heating system for the car, and you'll give yourself serious issues. These pipes initially came down the front of the car, so I don't know if I can show you the hole. So the pipes came out, they ran along the top of the tunnel, or slightly to the side of the tunnel, and then they went up the front into the bonnet. And what we did is we created a heater using the matrix from a Lotus JULEES, and then the squirrel fan from one of my really old cars from a Vauxhall Cavalier I had many years ago. And this effectively blew through the box. Now I've removed it, and I'll show you the photos of what the box looked like. Basically we ran into issues with water weeping. Now we thought, if that matrix is on top of the car, I'll show you the matrix. So this is the matrix that was originally inside that heater box. It's a bit wanged because I thought it was faulty and I threw it in the scrap box. As it turns out, it probably wasn't faulty. So we had issues with water leaking or weeping around the connection blocks. And so we tried double clamping it and all sorts, you've probably seen the photo, but it still weeps out, and we couldn't quite work it out. We came to the conclusion that the plastic solder had failed on here or something, but I don't think it was. I think that the matrix doesn't have a big enough flow rate for the Subaru engine. Now the reason for that is, when I thought that had failed, we removed it. The fan then became just a fan which blows cold air into the car, and it does at a phenomenal rate. It really does cool down fast. But I replaced it with this little thing, which is something I bought. This one was on eBay. Do not buy one. Do not fit it to your car. What a nightmare. So basically I fitted it just literally the day before MOT, and I drove for a mile. I got to the MOT station and there was water everywhere. It was coming out of every, I don't even know where it came from because there's so much water coming out the engine end. I couldn't tell you where the water was bursting from. It was just ridiculous. And basically the flow rate on this must be even worse than the Elise cooler, and the pressure was just so much that it was just like water was everywhere. Luckily I didn't go very far. So this has actually been disconnected as well now. And as I say, showed you a few minutes ago, I've just looped it back on itself, and since I've done that, no issues at all. So it's purely an issue with flow rate on the cooling system. So whatever you're going to use for cooling, I'll probably stick to using the standard Subaru box, cooling box, or the heater matrix, and create something around that. Otherwise, you're going to run into troubles. So this is the reason why we no longer have any cooling, because it's not needed. So it's not really something I considered when creating the, I guess, engine firewall that becomes part of the car. Is this panel gets very, very, very hot. So when we first created it, there's no insulation in there at all, and it was so hot you couldn't touch it after being on a run. So what I ended up doing was lining the insides of it with silver thermal insulation, which again I bought offline. But even that didn't do it enough. It was still very, very hot. Even the bars were hot to touch. So what I then did is created a mat, which is upside down now. So that's the cover, and again another 10 mils with insulation on there. So there's effectively 20 mil of insulation now around the box, and a load of fluffy stuff, and it's now bearable. So it's basically warm when it's been running for a while on the motorway and stuff. It's not excessive like it was, but it's something you've got to consider if you are going to do this. If you're going to effectively move the firewall into your car, is the heat it does generate is going to come into your car unless you spend a lot of time insulating it all. Right, I think the next video is going to be on the exhaust, so I'm hopefully going to show you how we created the exhaust. Yeah, I'll see you then, guys.